Today I'm visiting Canada, so I thought it would be good to make a video about Canada. Although this video is also about the USA. Have you ever wondered why Canada has blocky, big, gigantic provinces, while the USA has not so much? In this video, we are going to find just that. So, here's one reason for this strange phenomenon. As you can see, the Canadians have very big, blocky provinces and territories, while the USA has, well, some of them are still blocky, but most of them are organic, small ones. Let's find out why this is. Mainly because of USA is the most populated country in all of North and South America, and the third most populated country in the world. So it makes sense for many small states to be there, as we have to think about many different people. Basically, all the states are basically centered around groups of population. However, the Canadians have something a little bit different. Most of their population lives close to the US border or on the East Coast. There's not many people living across Canada. In fact, the entire state of California has a greater population than Canada itself. Thus, it makes sense for larger, blockier provinces to be there. These were really meant to be sizable provinces. They would size them and maybe make them smaller, make new ones as more people immigrated there. The USA is about 1 century older than Canada. So it makes sense that they have more people. However, Canada still has people immigrating. And although it is a developed country, that doesn't mean its population isn't evenly distributed. So as many people start immigrating, chances are they're probably going to start dividing their territory. It's a strategy they actually do. When Canada got its land, the British basically ceded it, meaning that when Canada had its land, they didn't split it into states at first. They occupied it as one territory. For example, when the Northwest Territories and Rupert's Land were given to Canada, they didn't turn it into a ton of different provinces. Instead, they turned it into the Northwest Territories, something that over time, when more people started coming into different areas, they would carve into more provinces and more territories. Take Alberta and Saskatchewan. Alberta and Saskatchewan were originally part of the Northwest Territories, but as more people started coming there, they were given status as provinces. The USA was slightly different, because although they did do some of it like that in the beginning, they just basically, even though nobody lived there, They would just carve and carve and carve more states into their territory. And I guess eventually people would move there. Which I wish you could see clearly, but this GIF is not moving fast. So difference was basically because of their different ways of organizing their land. Probably because of the way they gained independence. Canada was basically given independence. They were allowed independence. The USA fought for independence. And although the Canadians did also fight for independence, they didn't it didn't really work, unlike the USA's fight. But eventually, I guess it paid off. However, when the USA got more and more states, they kind of made them a little bit larger than the ones in the East. Probably because not too many people lived in the West, and still, if you draw a line through the middle of the USA, you still have instances where there is less population on the side of the West than the side of the East. With the exception of California, all of these states barely have any population. Although California still is large. And we'll figure out some things about that later in the video. Alaska probably is the largest state. And this is probably because of that exact reason. They could have separated the state into many different bits, but it had not too much of a population. And also, when they moved west once again, they didn't really do much. But there are also some political reasons in play here. The USA has more people, aka more people that need to be represented in the government than Canada. Thus, that makes sense for the many states. However, another reason that the USA has these many states is probably because of the Electoral Congress, something that Canada does not have. Whenever a new state joins the Union, the votes actually get more accurate, as the people are represented by delegates. Honestly, I don't know what they're called. I'm just gonna call them delegates for now. So technically, when a new state is added, you get another delegate. Although the population, unless more people start immigrating because of that, stays the same. Well, people are giving birth, so I guess it doesn't stay the same. But anyway, it stays the same if you round it, which means that more people will show votes, which means that road to 270, more like road to 280, 290, a bigger number, which means more accuracy in the votes. Canada, however, has no such thing. Citizens just, well, vote. They aren't really represented by anyone other than themselves. Which I guess is fine for Canada. Because like I said, they don't have a lot of people compared to the USA. But this also means that when a new province slash territory is added, unless people start immigrating there, there's not really a change in accuracy of the votes. Even if people start going there, still, the accuracy is still the same. Because, well, the procedures are the same. Nothing really changed. still have the booths. Although new booths may open up, that doesn't really change that much, which could say why it makes sense for Canada to have few yet big provinces and territories, while the USA has 50 small, well, most of them small, yet impactful states. Another reason might be because of how it was colonized. The US, notice that even Canada has smaller provinces when you have the East. Once they, basically early colonizers had a better way of mapping the land due to natural positions because they've been there for a long time. They were able to map and explore most of the area. But as we move further west, that's where colonists discovered more and more, but not as much as when they discovered the East. As well, they went from east to west, not counting Native Americans who didn't really map out their territory. Fun fact, even though Europeans came from the east, Native Americans actually came from the west, specifically the northwest from Alaska. If you want to learn more about that, watch my video on the history of North America. Anyway, as they moved west, they got kind of lazy mapping out the areas. And also, it was less explored, so they couldn't really do much, speaking of natural borders. If you look at the west, there are only about 3 to 4 instances where there are natural borders. Although if you include Alaska, the entire panhandle is natural. And Hawaii, well, Hawaii is an island. Islands. And also, by Europeans, the East Coast, mostly the Caribbean, was discovered first. So while you have Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador, you also have to think about the rest of them. Because other than those 4 provinces, everything else was colonized way later. This could also explain why Mexico has very small and very organic states, because they were one of the first things that the Spanish discovered. But we're not talking about Mexico. We're talking about Canada and the USA. And that's basically it for the video. As you can see, the reason Canada has larger but yet little provinces and territories is because when they were founded, their population, how they expanded, the way they vote, how their citizens have to be represented, and how they were colonized. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.